Welcome to Bond MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
Or MOTS!
This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Bond MOTS. My name is Rich Perry and I'm here with Stephen Hermosi.
Hey.
Ian Manzer.
I have nasal issues.
Scott Thurlow.
I just have ear issues.
Tonight we're talking about Edgar Wright's movie Baby Driver. And I think we have Scott with the funny logline.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Ferris Bueller's True Romance.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
perhaps you'll see why soon.
Yeah, so I'll start things off with the intro body conclusion. Basically it's about a getaway driver named Baby who is working off a debt that he incurred from Kevin Spacey and has to do a certain amount of jobs in order to be set free. Of course, Kevin Spacey reneges on the deal and ropes him back into one final job, which goes to hell and causes trouble with him and his new friend that he made. And through
His new lady friend.
Yes.
Through lots of murder, chase scenes, and great music, he eventually doesn't quite get away, but I guess has the only logical conclusion to his story.
He gets an ending, and it's fairly uplifting overall.
Yeah.
We all get an ending.
Yes, thanks, Donnie.
Yeah, he finished the movie pretty much waiting for his love or hoping his love waits for him by the time he gets out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for that parole board
Yeah.
to approve his.
Hoping that parole
Get
goes
that
through.
stamp.
Yeah, this actually reminds me quite a bit of Drive, if anyone's seen
Yeah,
that.
sure.
In the sense that they're both incredibly stylized, like kind of getaway driver with a likable enough, like although for completely different reasons. Oh, they're kind of both stoic.
I can see some
individuals.
crossover and some not, sure.
One's a lot more friendly than the other.
That's true, but this one where Drive is very kind of grim and oppressive. This one is, I don't want to say cartoonish because I think that would give negative implications.
It's just having fun with itself.
Yes, and it is
Shall we
over the
say-
top at times.
Shall we say Edgar Wrightian?
Yes. So, I don't know. Like, it's a very, very simple narrative, as Rich just pointed out. You've seen this plot line 1,000
It's a
times.
heist film, essentially, on a getaway driver.
Yeah, but it's pulled off very well, and it becomes ridiculously cartoonish towards the end with the sheer amount of unnecessary violence, I'm going to say, but not to the detriment of the film.
But I think the ending helped ground a lot of that cartoonishness.
Yeah.
Which is like by the end, I was surprised that he actually got caught. And then when they gave him his sentence, I was just like, oh yeah, there's consequences for a lot of the stuff that went on.
That was actually very refreshing because
Yes, exactly.
you would think he would get away scot clean out of this, but he doesn't. He goes to jail for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
And he's going to be stuck in Georgia for 20, which is probably even greater punishment.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But no, I mean, you're
Shout
right.
out to all of our Georgian
Yeah.
followers.
Sorry for listening to us in Georgia.
I'm not.
But
Unless you're in Savannah. I hear it's lovely.
Savannah is lovely.
But I mean, you guys are right. It's a simple narrative framework, but I think a lot of the things we're going to say possibly are going to go to style. So I'm going to give the narrative itself a 3 if we're going to scores because I think it's cut up perfectly. It's paced damn well, I would say. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's much I would argue to be cut out of the film, and if whatever I would argue, it's going to be minimal. But yeah, it sustains itself. It has a very, I think, distinct 3 acts, so perhaps we would have once upon a time cut them up into acts. But either way, I think the narrative sustained itself perfectly fine throughout. I was entertained and engaged the entire time. And I think it's damn well, like, yeah, a simple story, as you said, like, without any, like, negative connotations, just a well-told version of this tale you've seen before.
I would say that the style elevates this, which is very true, but I also think that the attention to detail.
Yes, well, I think
that
this goes to
into
style,
this.
too, kind of.
Well, yeah, but narratively as well.
Okay.
That everything is set up in this for character arcs, and, like, each, we'll go into more of this when we do antagonists, protagonists, and sporting, but each character really, each major character in this has a complete arc. Mm-hmm. And even the left turns that come, they've set those up. So I don't know. I would argue that the attention to detail that went into making this film elevates it to near a perfect narrative, which I'm going to give it a 3.
I pretty much agree.
I think I'm going to give it a 3 as well, although I will say there is one part that is kind of left turn that is not set up in my mind, and that's Kevin Spacey at the end with his complete, like, I was in love once too, kid. Here's all the money and everything that you want. Like,
I think he gave him some of the stuff, not all of it.
It was, well,
But either way.
no, he gave him all, like,
gave
the
him a
money
bag
that
of
he was
stuff.
owed, right? And the tape that he wanted, which he said as soon as he asked for it that he wasn't getting it.
All right.
And it was kind of a departure from the
no nonsense.
Doc.
Yeah.
It was his name.
You're saying it
His,
broke immersion.
like, no
because of that.
nonsense character. A little bit.
I actually think that it does make sense for the. He's explicitly very like hard and very like because he has to take control of all these wild characters to make sure nothing goes wrong. But you do see his soft side when it comes to Baby.
In terms of
and
that.
I think he's using him, but I think he to a certain extent cares about Baby, which we could see with him like I use you for everything because I trust you. I don't use people again and again for my teams, and I think it was set up, maybe not broadcast, but I believed it when he turned out to be a good guy for what it's worth.
As we said, just to address that, Stevo, we were discussing that very moment precast that I see what you mean, but I'm more on E's side where I bought into it fine enough, even though it did seem maybe a little out of place, but nothing that like broke me away from being like that's completely too much for me to buy into.
It might have been easier to buy into if you didn't say like I've been in love.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly what I was
Some
going to
of
say.
that's dialogue,
I
but
think
I get you.
that was a misstep in terms of because you could have had him be a softie for Baby without
I guess
him
but
saying that line, which was really out of place.
that's
and, like,
one small
Even
line.
if it was just like
it doesn't matter if it's
I
a
owe you
small
one,
line.
kid.
This is such a tight, almost perfect script that one small line that's out of place really sticks out like a sore thumb to
All right,
me.
fair enough. I get you. I can
You
see
know what
that.
I mean?
Yeah, I do. I just don't. I'm not on your side, but I do see what you mean completely.
So, by no means am I going to take a point away for that.
Okay.
The intro, the body, and the conclusion were all very tight, very well done, and just as I was saying to you guys, this is my kind of movie. So, like, I will give it even extra points on top of on top of that for me. So it's going to be a 3 for me for sure.
Alrighty, sure.
Yeah, I was enthralled the entire time, especially when Jamie Foxx's character showed back up again. That's
Yeah.
and then the tension was just ratcheted up
Yep.
every time he was on the scene, in the scene. So I'm giving it a 1 for 3
3 overall.
Yeah.
for all.
One to
yeah,
each.
1 to each. So Steve, that brings us to you with themes.
All right. There are a couple larger, like, overall themes in this. I guess.
Broad
So, like,
themes.
there's the love story that goes throughout, and honestly, I think it's a well written love story, but really it's carried by the chemistry between these two characters, and I really enjoyed it. As Scott mentioned in his log line, and as Ian mentioned while we were watching the movie, it did definitely kind of remind me of the love story in True Romance, and like that's the type of shit that I love. This like kind of star-crossed, vulgar love
Criminals.
story, like
Sure.
that's a really cool story to me. But beyond that, that's kind of a shallow level.
But may I jump in for one
yeah.
moment? But their love story compared to what I'm going to call Bonnie and Clyde, John Hamm and his female companion,
Right.
I think is an interesting parallel. In
Actually, that's a very good point in terms of themes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's basically all I just wanted to point out. That I thought there was an interesting parallel there.
That is a very good point in terms of themes, because you have that whole like Bonnie and Clyde, natural born killers almost.
Yes. Yeah,
love
yeah.
story there
He even uses
as a parallel, as a foil to the love story, like the more pure love story between Baby and Deborah.
Deborah, yeah.
And yeah, that's a really interesting thing that was going on in this movie. There's the whole like this life of crime, trying to get out of
Yes.
the life, And that whole thing, which is really well done in this, the minute you get out, that's when they pull you back in. That whole type of story,
Exactly.
And it's just a joy to watch it done in this movie. I think it's really well pulled off and really well done. Kevin Spacey does a great job of being that catalyst for pulling Baby back into their life, and Baby, for his part, does a really good job of like playing that kind of. He's like this seasoned, wide-eyed kid. Strangely enough, I guess. Like,
it's a funny description, but accurate.
He thinks he's getting out, but he doesn't realize that the wheels are always turning in this life of crime that he has been pulled into, and they do a really good job of showing that, portraying that. They give his backstory without going too deeply into it.
Sure, it wasn't exposition dumped, but you understood
throwing exposition in your face
where it was coming from. Sure.
So I thought that was well done. I don't know. I think I'm going to leave it there and see if you guys have any more to say about the themes.
Well, yeah, I'll just jump in. So the Godfather thing, they go try to get out, and they pull me back in. Like, I was going to definitely mention that if someone else didn't. So that's fine that you did. And yeah, like, it was clear enough that it was there. It's just that I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to complain about this movie because I think a lot of things about it were well done. It's just that maybe for this one, themes specifically, that the things we mentioned were contained, like. I hate to say like accidentally, because I don't think anything was accidental about the script at all. I think it was very well planned out. And the star-crossed lovers thing, Steve-O, as well, the Bonnie and Clyde thing that you ref, like, it was all very obviously there. It's just that I don't know if that was like the intention of the point per se, or like at least the major one of the movie. Maybe just like because of the pedigree of this film, that there is going to be a solidly addressed theme regardless, even if it wasn't like, even the intention was to like have a good entertaining heist film with cool and interesting chase scenes and characters as well and all that. But I mean, you made a good point, Steve-O, that I was going to give themes just like maybe sort of a default, no fault of the film or anything, 0 going into it, but you may have convinced me to come up to the side to give it enough credit that it did address those things in a well enough manner that what made sense and was relevant. So
I'm gonna hear me out for this, because it might be completely absurd, but as we're about to discuss, there's very strong characters in this film that were all developed really well with an eye to detail. I think, in a way, the themes were emergent properties of
yes, that's kind of what I was trying to say.
Characterization versus it being the central tenet that they wanted to.
Sorry, that's exactly basically what I was trying to say. You said it very well.
I got another one for you at the end of this. I'm going to let you guys go, and then I got a bomb to drop on you.
All right.
In case you guys are still on 0.
Right now I'm giving it a 0, so drop your bombs.
Do you want to say anything before I do this?
Oh, wait.
All right. So, I think now that I think about it, and I just kind of came upon this realization that this movie does a really interesting job of equating healing and wellness to art and music. And the music is so present throughout this entire film, and it is a way that Baby deals with the pain of the loss of his mother and all the pain in his life. And not only the pain, but it's how he expresses his joy, and it's how he expresses his
connections.
Yeah, it's how he connects to life in general, and I think that is a very important part of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like it, but he said it best. Basically, what I was trying to get to that is great factor that you mentioned, Steve-O, and yes, it's obviously there. Now that you mentioned it, but I still think it's possibly an emergent property of everything else about the film.
I don't know about that. I think that's the statement this movie's trying to make.
It's difficult because we'll never know unless we talk to Edgar Wright and whoever else themselves.
Now, let me ask you a question then. On the theme you just described, does any other character in this
do that?
Or is it just Baby who has
John Hamm relates to his music.
Debbie relates to his music.
Debbie relates to his music.
His foster father relates to his music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like that's actually one
is.
of the bits of his personality that he made sure to get down on the recorder for the people when they found him.
That's true. I suppose.
And also he relates every person that he comes in contact with to music. He makes songs about each and every one of them as he records them. I think this is actually kind of a brilliant theme now that I'm thinking. The more and more I think about it,
You dropped your bomb, and it hit its intended target. I think you might have convinced me to a 1, where I was pretty strong in the 0 category.
All right. I wasn't strongly in 0. I was just kind of wavering, but I think all that said that it's definitely enough there, substantial enough, and yeah, I didn't think about that angle, Steve, but now that you mention it, I think it also is damn well valid, and I will give it a 1 at the end of the day now.
I was trying to come up with like the killer theme, and I just thought about it while we were talking
Like the
about
killer
themes.
song, got the killer theme.
Exactly.
Fair enough, dude. Got me at least. Good on you.
So this one's all around.
I think so now it is, yep.
That brings us to Ian with Antagonist.
This was one of the most surprising features of this film. Because in the end, I don't necessarily think there is a lot of people antagonize Baby throughout this. You have Kevin Spacey as the crime boss in a way, dragging him into this lifestyle. But again, in the end, when push comes to shove, everything's falling apart.
He's an ally.
He's willing to help out Baby get out.
The fill-in for his shitty father figure that he already had, right?
Sure.
Who died.
Yes.
Jamie Foxx's character, I was sure was the antagonist, and for a good third of this movie, maybe half of it, he is the antagonist. And
To a large degree.
Baby takes him out in an act of, in a sense, mercy, I think, for other people around. Because
He's so much of a wild card, he's endangering the mission,
well, no,
essentially.
he's not endangering the mission. He's fed up
He's
with
endangering
people,
everyone around him.
and he's fed up with seeing people hurt by Jamie Foxx, which causes John Hamm
a cock
to
up cascade, if you will. Yes.
go
ham.
beast mode, go ham,
Goes full ham.
because his lover gets shot by the police.
Yeah.
And then John Hamm becomes the villain at the end, but you're very sympathetic to John Hamm's character through a majority of this film. And he's maybe not protective of Baby, but he's at least friendly towards him. And you understand the motivations behind all of these people causing it. So I want to say, as you like to do, Scott, with like an abstract here, it's the fact that crime
doesn't pay. I was going to say that.
Yeah, living a life of
similar
crime,
to what I was going to say.
it comes back to
bite your ass.
destroy you.
Yeah.
Eventually, no matter how careful you are, no matter how many, like if you do bad things and surround yourself with bad people,
When you
bad
lay
things
down
will
with
happen.
dogs,
Yeah.
you wake up with
Fleas.
fleas, that type of thing.
Stare into the abyss, etc. I mean, you're pretty much right, and yeah, I'll salute you for saluting my normal shot thing, because I don't think any one character per se deserves to be the antagonist, like in quotes. But even for like the small like slices of the plot, when Jamie Foxx, you thought he was going to be like taking over that role, or you thought Kevin Spacey was also like, they set him up to be that, and then he sort of was, but then wasn't. It was a good subversion.
These are complex characters.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like, you know, you try to get out of this life and they suck you back in, and that's sort of, and that like, there's no one thing per se representing that, but it's just and sort of an aspect and angle of their lives. So, and I think everyone in the whole crew was somewhat antagonized by Baby, of course, to a much larger degree. But I think I'll go along with that.
I do agree. I love how complicated the antagonist question is right now, and it is very complicated, and that's a function of how this movie is set up, and
Great script writing,
and that makes me love it all the more because I like things like that. And it's not, there's no specific person who's the antagonist. It's this through line of, you know, you can't really trust your life when you live this life.
Yeah.
All right, I have two scenes I want to point out.
Yeah.
Okay. One is John Hamm and Jamie Foxx acting against each other and with each other is a pleasure to watch.
Yeah.
John Hamm is intimidating when he wants to be, and lovable when he wants to be. And that makes him such a great villain because I gave a damn about him before he
One whole ham.
became a monster. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Enough of the puns.
You get one more ham joke later on. That's it.
I also like when they're at the diner with Jamie Foxx and John Hamm and the girlfriend. They're actually having a discussion of crime. And it's kind of an interesting inversion because Jamie Foxx is playing kind of a low class, grew up in like the kind of ghetto type gangster, while John Hamm is a coked up Wall Street guy.
Yeah.
With his girlfriend.
Can we give? Hold on. May we give the girlfriend a shout out because I feel bad we're calling her the girlfriend.
Darling.
Isaac
Her name is
Gonzalez is
Isaac
the actress'
Gonzalez.
name, and she's darling. She did a great job.
Well, it's interesting to me because they do a reversal, and she plays that scene very well, where she's going, "How dare you sit there and judge us?"
Yeah.
She starts off saying, I'm going to go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and speak for the two
both
of
of
us.
us.
Yeah.
But like it's a kind of scene you would imagine Jamie Foxx's character would be like, "How dare you sit and judge me?" And it's reversed, kind of. And I don't know. I think that the attention to detail and how each character is well characterized.
It's actually a very good setup to him. His ability to read people so well. Like he knew in the beginning, he knew to kill JD.
Yeah.
Like immediately, he knew he was going to be the one that like set the whole job off. And
good.
he was able to track down where Baby lived and his foster father.
Sure. No, like everyone's basically a consummate professional, and like does testaments. Like again, like to sort of set up that Jamie Foxx's character, I think, is Bats, and Leon, I believe, was his real name, but eventually was revealed. But either way, you'd like to think of like he's the one-dimensional thug character, and he sort of was that, but he was also so much more. A la what you guys just said, which made him, just everyone was more interesting. Like you said, Ian, I think I can't say it better. The attention to detail that was in this film for all the characters and a lot of other things too, but especially things like that, I think rounds it out like a lot more than it could have ever been.
Like a lot of the chaos in this is set off because of when they shoot up the cops with the gun purchase, and he was correct with sniffing out that they were
That's true.
cops.
You think like, again another nice
Except
little
he was
subversion.
he didn't have
They
the
were
proper
in-
context.
Yeah.
Of and that again, it's people make correct moves in this with bad
with the knowledge they have, but they don't have all the
repercussions.
knowledge.
Yeah.
And I would say, so I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later on, but while I'm thinking about that scene in particular, the diner scene, that is a very Tarantino scene.
True romance he is for sure.
True romance, well, which Tarantino wrote.
I know that's why I said that.
Or directed.
He wrote it.
He wrote it. Somebody
Tony
else
Scott directed it.
Yeah, Tony Scott. That's right. But yeah, it's a very Tarantino scene, and like this. Well, I'll talk about this later. How much of a how referential this movie is, but it's
Pretty referential.
yeah.
Sure.
Are we still on antagonist?
Yes, we are.
I'm gonna give it a 1.
Yeah, me too.
We have gone far afield from antagonist to this
No, I mean,
point.
kind of tangential, but I'm still giving it a 1 overall because everything we just fucking said.
Yeah.
So this one's all around. Scott, you're up with Pro Tag.
All right, Baby Driver, man. I think, I can't remember his name, Angston. I can't remember the actor's name. Sorry. Apologize offhand, but Baby Driver himself, I think, was a great character. And I think the script clearly was built sort of around him, and all the characters sort of filled out his little life of crime, as we said. I think he was super interesting. His motivations made sense. Every decision he mostly did made sense 90% of the time or more. And I just think I bought into his character almost instantly. Because of the nature and the framework of the film, it gives you drops you into this little style, sure, but it tells you how good he is as a driver, a getaway driver, and then you round out his life, you see that he's living. You get the quick flashback. Again, it's not too much exposition at all. It's in fact the perfect amount of what happened to him, what happened to his parents, and why he is the way he is, why he listens to music all the time, how he uses music, as you're saying, Sivo, to connect to just the world and other people in general. And it's funny because. This will go to secondary a bit, but everyone, at least early on, they seem to assume he's not quite all there or not quite with it, and he quickly, instantly proves them their sort of suppositions wrong. So I enjoyed his character throughout. I think again, it was very well rounded, a very believable three-dimensional character that I was invested in and was following along with the storyline second by second, like every single minute. So I have to give him a lot of credit. I think he did a great job and gets a 1 from me.
More so than his acting, though, or his character, I think what really sold me was his interactions with his stepfather and with Deborah.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a damn about him because he's like, instead of saying, "Oh, this guy's a nice guy," like, and you haven't used a word, you actually get to see him interacting with people.
Exactly.
And the guy's lovable. Like I didn't want to see harm befall him.
And even if you didn't figure it out towards the beginning of the movie, at the end when they had all those character witnesses come in
Yeah.
to try to plead his case.
Exactly.
They really nailed
He's such a
nail in the
nerd,
coffin.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he has so many great character interactions throughout the film, and they work. Edgar Wright as a director works throughout this entire film to prove that this guy is a good guy, because he knows that he's going to be on trial at the end of the film, literally.
Sure.
And I think that it does a great job showing the person that he is in a tough situation, in a tight situation, and it shows how he interacts and deals with these situations as someone who both has to be in a life of crime, but also
like reluctantly
is
much.
not cold-blooded or heartless. And he does, and the actor does a great job of portraying it. I think he has great on-screen charisma.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to seeing him in more films in the future. So
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm going to give it a 1.
I agree. I don't got much more to say.
Yeah, I can't really add on to anything else.
Yep. Gets a 1 from me and
1.
from everybody, it seems.
So it brings me to supporting. I said this during the film. Like, even the one-shot characters that had popped up had depth.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Like, you got a very good idea of like who they were as people, and like just little conversations. They also connected with Baby on a musical level.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you noticed.
Yep. I did see that.
Everything about this movie is music.
No, you're right.
and like-
Go on. Sorry.
Who's your favorite?
Oh man. Let's see. I think I would have to say Debbie and John, his foster father.
Okay. Nice.
Although everybody else is like a close second. Like
Yeah, like it's a great ensemble
Yeah.
cast for sure. And as you just said, Rich, and as we sort of alluded to earlier, that because in lesser hands, it would be mishandled. Like they would all be like flat caricatures essentially, and like you thought it's almost like they set them up to be that on the surface, and then like almost instantly or very quickly enough, routed them out, fleshed out their relationships to each other, and there's just their lifestyle and sort of connection to the gang in general. So my standout one, of course, is not of course, but I would say Aiza did a great job. I recognized her from Dusk Till Dawn, and she was great in that too. Mm-hmm. And her and John Hamm's relationship, like you said, it was almost like a somewhat like mirror parallel to Baby and Deborah. Mm-hmm. And Deborah was great as well. I'm going to give her a lot of credit. Just the world itself was
like the evil version of their...
Yeah, kind of. But like just the world itself was so believably fleshed out by these characters. And as you said, Rich, even like what you thought were like throwaway, like, walk-on characters, even they had depth. And that's something like, it's almost like, I think you said like, that's kind of art. It's hard to do that. It's not easy to do that, but it seems
like
almost
and he was able to pull it off
handled
with just a handful of lines.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm giving it a 1, like collectively, just overall.
Especially the fact that 3 of those supporting characters took turns as antagonists. Like,
yeah.
Like,
and that's great too. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
how do you become antagonist and still be a supporting character?
Exactly. That's difficult to juggle, and I agree. And that it was pulled off. So,
I'm gonna give shout outs. Ian, why don't you go first, because I might steal one of yours if I go first.
I'm going to give 2 shout-outs.
go ahead.
Yeah.
One is to the cook.
Yes.
Bo's diner guy. That guy.
Bob's.
Didn't have much to do except for yell at people and be cranky.
Yeah.
But that's
That's what you do when you're diner manager.
exactly. Also, I want to give a shout out to Mike Myers' past career.
Sure.
Or Mike Myers becoming relevant again. Sorry.
Sold out all the Mike Myers masks. All right. So I'm going to give 2 shout-outs from the same scene. The kid, the nephew,
Yeah.
was
good one.
amazing.
Mhm.
Just, cases the entire
Criminal in training.
post office, like,
While
out of
never
nowhere.
taking his eyes off the video game.
Yeah. And the teller there, who is like,
Okay, yeah, sure.
who was pretty good, who witnessed a horrible murder later.
Yeah, like even she was like ostensibly like a throw, like again a just there, just for in background almost. But she even you can get a sense of her character just from the little.
That's who I was basically thinking about when I said that.
Okay, yeah.
Because like she goes on that whole rant about Dolly Parton.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like that actually calms Baby down to stop being weird.
Yeah, that was almost like a throwaway line, but like,
And for
it was meaningful.
everybody who doesn't get who hasn't gotten a shout out, honestly, I feel like every supporting character in this movie had at least a little bit of a backstory figured out for them.
Or you
They
could,
knew
yeah.
who they were supposed to be when they were on screen, and it showed. And that says a lot about this film.
I agree.
And the directing of this film.
And and the direction, and for that, I'm obviously going to give it a 1.
Damn right.
Yep.
I really love the supporting characters in this.
Well, all right.
So I guess Steve will tell us how much he loves dialogue.
Ooh, I will tell you how much I love dialogue. I thought that the dialogue in this movie was So I'm going to use the word standard, but by no means should you take it as to mean standard. It's your standard Edgar Wright fare,
Which is usually
I guess,
a pretty spot
which
on.
is very, very high level, like funny, witty,
yeah.
clever dialogue. Yeah, and this didn't disappoint at all. It's it's kind of that Soderbergh-esque, like Ocean's 11 style dialogue, but like with its own little twist.
Because they throw in some Tarantino in there.
And and
what's important.
Edgar Wright loves these like weird directors who kind of do their own thing. It's definitely Tarantino influence, probably a little bit Robert Rodriguez style.
Yep.
There's all those directors that are kind of on the fringe of the mainstream that you can tell he absolutely loves. And I'll talk about this more in style as well, because as I said earlier, this is just a love letter to
that kind of
pop
stuff.
culture and movies that came before it, while also being its own thing. And it's tough to walk that line. A lot of times something is too referential, or it gets bogged down in references, or
It's like
not that this is a bad thing, but like doesn't really take from other movies nearly as much. And this movie, you could see the references, but they weren't obvious unless you really watched those movies that it's referencing. I'm going to style. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the dialogue was incredible, and if you've seen other Edgar Wright movies, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add, but it's almost like the standard thing you said was funny because, yeah, if you're familiar with him, then you're expecting like a pretty high caliber dialogue overall, and he didn't fail to deliver. So I think he probably does dialogue and, as you mentioned, style the best. Like he merges those two things almost. So I mean, I can't say enough about the dialogue. It was, like you said, snappy, witty. Every character had great rapport with every other character that they were interacting with always, and it was just always spot on. Like the jokes hit every time they were set up, or they just like sort of did a non sequitur even here and there, and that worked as well. So it all worked, and it all was great, and it was still top notch. Edgar Wright's hallmark is all over it, and it's damn good.
Yeah.
When I talk about dialogue, I'm actually going to bring up his style, which is next, because I think that both of them are very intertwined.
Exactly.
But it's going to get a 1 for me. So
Yeah, I'm still officially giving dialogue a 1 though, for sure as well.
Yep.
All right.
All right, he and your own with style.
Speaking of,
this is going to be really weird, because I'm going to say that, in a way, this is oppressively stylish.
I kind of see what you mean though.
And I did it because it has its... all right, so take away all of the like kind of ultra reality that takes place in this, with like for the laundromat scene with all of the swirling colors in a pattern and like the music that's playing throughout.
Right.
And you just take this as a straight kind of heist film. It was standard, but then there would be scenes like the diner scenes, which transition from Baby's one place of happiness, where Deborah works, and it turns into like the tensest scenes towards the end in this. They're, regardless of style issues, they're tense scenes. The thing is, take that kind of arc and now heighten it with everything kind of with this ultra reality. Rich, you pointed this out, which I didn't even notice anything, is that when John Hamm is in rage mode, he is bathed in red for the end part.
That's some Rodriguez shit, kind of.
And I felt kind of tired after watching this movie because I was, and especially towards like when they start getting very violent and tension-filled scenes. It actually, again, goes back to I felt it was oppressive at some point. That's not a bad thing. It was something I haven't felt in a movie in a while, and I have to give it full credit for that. It's not as tense as, let's say, some of Tarantino's work, but it's approaching that in certain scenes in here. So I have to give that full credit.
Sure, I get you. I mean, I really like the phrase oppressively stylish. It's kind of awesome. But I think, again, like as I just mentioned, it's sort of a hallmark of Edgar Wright stuff. Like, if nothing else, you have to give his work credit for being pretty damn stylish overall, and this was no exception. So yes, well, I see what you mean about the sort of hyper reality elements to it. I still think it worked, and like, I'm not sure if like general movie going audiences would have noticed that per se, but it's still like it made sense, and every shot was for the most part awesome. There was something even like I think one of us were like, how did I even get that shot like here and there?
But I'm just saying that that when it's funny,
I know what you're saying,
it's very kind of like that. I think that makes the tonal shifts it goes through, which a
little bit more noticeable,
a little bit more kind of
jarring, maybe.
No, it's very difficult to describe. Aside from when it's funny, it's very like kind of meant to be humorous. When it's dark, it's meant to be very dark, and the shifting is kind of exhausting. But again, not in a bad way.
All right, I get you.
It is. So I have a bunch of stuff to say about style.
Go ahead.
Obviously, the music is incredible.
I was waiting for you. I left that for you, Steve.
I usually talk about music. I figured we don't have to wait for me on this one. If it wasn't gonna get to me because music is basically a large portion of the style in this. But honestly, you mentioned something in this movie is this movie is probably the movie. Now let me think about this. I'll say this: it's probably the movie that I've laughed the hardest at this year. That's come out this year, and I may be wrong about that, but I don't think so. There are very laugh out loud.
I mean, generally laughed with the movie, not at the movie.
Yeah, there are. You're right.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. The colors in this are intense
the
and
palette,
incredible.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
And the chemistry between characters is so good. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a very referential film. There are so many references to other movies, heist movies, crime movies. Tarantino is a big one in this, but also, I mean, we were going through and we were like, I forget what some of the references were, but like as we were watching the movie, I was like, oh, that reminds me of this. This reminds me of this. Like there was a scene that reminded me of damn it, I'm gonna forget it now. It doesn't matter. But this movie is a film that pays very close attention to what it's doing stylistically, and I really love it for that. I really want to give it as much credit as I possibly can for that, because it's something that people aren't necessarily going to realize when they're watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
Consciously, but subconsciously, it's something that really sticks with you. People will remember all the washing machines and the colors of the clothes that were in there. People remember the music that played at a certain scene because those are the types of things that stick with you subconsciously. And Edgar Wright plays on all of those subconscious
sort of angles,
understanding of the way that life and film works. And I think that's brilliant. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When you're talking, I figured it out. It's got the hyper reality of a musical. So if you go into like La La Land,
Yeah.
that kind of thing where the colors are vibrant, but if you took that kind of style and put it to heist film,
into a gangster film,
it's-
yeah.
And
then
took
this
out
is-
the singing along.
but they had his music the
little bit of
entire
it.
time.
They did, but no one sang along to it, right?
Yes,
it's
they
not-
did.
They did.
They did that parts a little here and there, not the
kind
whole
of.
time.
And even
but
the opening scene where he's dancing in the streets to the one song, it's
It does.
half a
I was
musical,
gonna bring
half
that
a
up.
heist film. It's
yes,
That was actually going to be my. That was
I'm sorry, Rich.
for what?
I'm sorry that we took that away from
stole
you.
your shit as
No, I
always.
was like, I was going to bring that up when you said it was like hyper realistic, and it made sense because Baby has taken the music and made the world his
built
music
around it. Yeah, exactly.
Like he's the only time he has ever lost is when he loses his music. The first time when John Hamm like shoots it, and the second when he can't find a good song on the radio.
I mean,
to
think
take
about
off
it. His
to.
name is fucking Baby,
Yeah.
right? Like stolen straight out of Dirty Dancing. Like,
I guess, but
no, absolutely.
Oh, that was a missed
If you don't think
opportunity.
that's a reference,
That
you're
was a
crazy.
missed opportunity to not use that line.
well, no, I think I give him credit for
No,
not
that would
using
be
it.
too
Now that I
over
think
the
of,
top
yeah.
if you use it as a
Too
direct
referential.
reference. Of course it's a reference to that. Like
All right,
everything in this is a reference.
fair enough.
You know,
I mean,
like
that's all
Edgar
fine.
Wright is a guy that knows fucking movies, and if you see something that you think is a reference, it probably is that reference.
I hope this was a bet that you can't make a musical heist film,
And he's like,
And
"Fuck
then he's
off!
like-
I'll show you how to do it." Yeah.
and he did it. And it's all
Well,
credit.
I like musical heist film as a
Well-
new genre. We should see more of them.
What about
But
the Sting?
you know what?
Right?
You know what? When like every time they had a gunfight and it went in beat with the song.
Yeah, that
I
was pretty
thought
badass.
it was only going to be that first time, and then they kept it throughout the rest of the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, no.
which was very
It
impressive.
was spot
Well,
on.
he
yeah.
adjusts
Not
his
only
music
fights.
at times to
That's true.
Right.
What?
And when the music wasn't right, he couldn't move. He couldn't drive anywhere until he got the right song.
Mhm.
Like, you know, throughout the film, even when he's bringing people coffee, the song's going on. He's putting down coffee to the beat.
Yep.
It's so
It's very meticulous,
pervasive
but
throughout
it seems,
this film.
Seems effortless.
I do think my favorite scene is the first time that him and Deborah get together at the laundromat, and the camera. The first thing you see of them is them both tapping their heels to the
Yeah.
beat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. Like it has, like, as we all
Him
mentioned,
following her.
There's so
like,
much-
very musical.
there's so much detail that could have, like, again, in lesser hands, wouldn't have been included. But the fact that it is just elevates everything about it and everything else we just said. Like I said, style, probably, and dialogue are like the most glaring, obvious ones, and I'm definitely giving it A1.
And Jesus, I almost forgot to mention this, but the choreography in all aspects of this movie is
Yes.
insane.
Mhm.
Insane. There's insane choreography through all the car
Chases,
chases. He does a
Oh,
foot chase.
Yes, I was
that's
just-
as
yeah, I was
intense
just about
as
to say
any
that.
car chase
Yeah,
in the movie.
True. Good call. Good
Not
call
only
remembering
that, but like just the moving around on the set choreography, and actually, what reminded me to talk about this was what you just said. When they're in the laundromat and they're both connected to an earbud, and he has to move with her throughout the scene. It's a work of genius, and like if you guys don't remember this, because
No, I
it's
do.
easy
You're
to
right.
miss, but if you. Anybody who's watching this who doesn't remember it, go back and just watch that scene. It's fucking brilliant.
It's the best musical heist film I've ever seen.
I definitely agree. I think I can't match that, so still getting a 1.
Yeah,
yeah.
Hard ass
definitely
1,
one
if you
for
will.
me.
I think we had realized it was going to get a 1.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very early on. A foot tap and 1.
Yeah, and I realized I was going to get a 1 months ago when I first saw the first 5 minutes
All right.
of it before the movie even came out.
Steve-O was in before.
And before.
Hipster Steve-O. That brings us.
I think it's a recommendation
Yeah,
with me.
Recommend. Oh yeah, it is with you. We'd gone on for so long about stuff. I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah,
who was up.
Got lost in the film, Rich. Yes, I definitely recommend Baby Driver, and I don't much more to say. It's a goddamn good film. I think we might be giving it a 10. It seems like so far.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it's just so perfectly put together. It has everything, all the wrappings make sense, and there's nothing cheap or lazy about it at all. And I said, unless our hands, it could have been. So I'll just leave off that we were supposed to cover it when it came out, but we just didn't have time to. We just couldn't get to it. Now that we finally have, I'm glad for it. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out. And if you did see it again, because I'm sure it's still just as great as it was when originally, because it's a very enjoyable film, and I had a lot of fun watching it, and just damn good all around.
Right. I had an idea of what this movie was going to be, and every single time I thought I had it pegged, it took a left turn.
Yep, a little bit,
and just just turn things slightly on its head.
Exactly.
To keep
I was
me,
not a left turn, but just
yeah.
a little juke weave, sort of. Yeah,
to keep
you know, to
keep me enthralled enough to keep watching the rest of this movie. So I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. My suggestion when watching this movie is pay the fuck attention, because it seems like a movie that you can just like kind of drift through and like breeze through, and you can do that and it'll be a good movie.
Yeah, you'll still enjoy
but
it.
If you really pay close attention to what's going on in this film, you'll get so much more out of it.
Agreed.
There's so much going on in the little details in this movie that make it so worth it to just watch it. Don't do anything else. I mean, we had our little side conversations and shit,
but not much, not to the extent as,
but like not as much as we usually, or not usually, but like not as much as sometimes. And there's so much happening in this movie that is just not in the forefront, that you can get a lot more out of it if you're really paying attention to it.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna give it a 1.
Mm-hmm.
I was initially hesitant to give this a 10. And then I realized that it's a musical heist film.
So you're giving yourself a 1 for inventing a new genre.
Edgar Wright invented a new genre. And the more I think about it, the more we had this conversation, I realized how actually brilliant this film was with the way it handled itself. So there is a little bit of rumor that this could be a Best Picture nod.
It's getting some buzz at this time.
And after watching it, initially I'm like, a goofy kind of heist film and Edgar Wright. Now that having watched it and thought about it, I actually I think it would be remiss for them to not at least give this a look for Best Picture, because this does something that I've rarely seen before. It's taken all these different disparate genres and put them together into a very functioning movie. A movie that entertains and so yes, go watch this.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
So that
is it a perfect 10? What's the final?
The final score is 10.
Yep.
Do all of you believe it's a perfect 10 movie?
The thing is, at this point, yes, only because I was going into this for flaws to nitpick and so forth, and like while you can do that, like they were so completely outweighed by the greatness of this film that I think, I can't really say there's anything to be found wrong with this film. It's fucking sweet. Go watch it, like I said.
I gave my speech already.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, much earlier, maybe on the first question. I think on the first question. I have one nitpick with this film, and if I were to say that I wouldn't give it a perfect 10, it would be based on
just for that one thing. That
little nitpick about Kevin Spacey seemingly having a weird line of dialogue out of nowhere, and yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. I love the rest of this film. I wish that hadn't been in the movie.
See, I think that's actually the fact that you're dwelling so much on one line as your one nitpick of this film
is evidence.
It's very telling. Yeah, of course. I agree, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that there is this is a 10 movie to me, and honestly, I went in trying to convince you and Scott that you had to give Themes a 1, and I succeeded. And now I'm like kind of like
backfired on yourself as well. But I get you. It's funny, but sure.
I think I would give it a 10. I think I would. I think it is a 10 movie.
You just
for
did.
Me. I mean, I think it is a 10 movie for me.
Right.
Despite that small nitpick, I wish I wasn't in there because then I wouldn't even have to think about it. But I think I would still give it a 10.
All right, then.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree. Like, this movie surprised me so much that...
In a good way.
In a good way that I can't give it anything less.
All right.
There you go.
Damn right.
So you've heard it here, folks. Baby Driver's a 10.
It's awesome.
So thank you for joining us. I've been Rich Perry, joined by Stephen Hermosi.
Have a good night.
Ian Manzer.
Night.
And Scott Thurlow.
And I'll be in my getaway car sometime soon. See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Stephen Hermosi. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.